All right. Welcome to Chalk Talk tonight. We got lots to talk about coming up on the closing weeks of the NFL, getting ready to head into the playoffs. So there we go. We're going to bring on Eric and we'll get started. All right, and welcome to your favorite Tuesday night NFL football show where we get more calls right than an NFL ref. So before we get started, Happy New Year to you, brother.
To you too, good man. Thank you very much.
Absolutely.
Exciting.
We are in the first show of the new year. We're getting ready to hit that last week of regular season football as we go into the playoffs. And what a better way to start out 2022 than Antonio Brown having a meltdown and walking off the field. Now, I think there's like 3 or 4 sides to this story as we go on, but I think this definitely, we haven't talked much about TBI or what do they call it? Is it CBE in NFL football?
Yep.
And I think this is just Dash's opinion. I think this is a prime example of that issue of mental health. I may have been a little rash in something I posted the other day, and I feel, as I sit here and think about it, I don't know if I want to feel bad. I feel bad for him. I really do. Now that I go back and see things, what is your take on the issue at hand with Antonio Brown?
Yeah, so I mean, first of all, absolutely. If he's got any medical issues, any type of brain issues, that's a serious matter. And some of the messaging coming out of the Buccaneers, I think is very promising to support Antonio Brown. But on the other hand, if there are not significant medical issues, then to me that just puts Mike Tomlin in the list of head football coaches even further up to be able to handle or to be able to take care of Antonio Brown for so long, where you didn't hear a peep out of Antonio Brown. The only thing you ever heard was route running skills, ability to read the defense, excellent hands, speed after the catch, just nothing but good intangibles of a teammate. And then just seeming implosion at the last minute. So, we do have 2 potential issues.
Right.
Coach Arians did say, Tom Brady did say, yes, Coach Arians did say, we hope he gets the help he needs. Tom Brady said not that there's a little more going on, but I'm always here for him if he needs help. So yeah, there's something going on. We're talking a lot about, mental health on Antonio Brown right now. Because
there's a lot of players, there's a lot of speculation as far as him getting what he needed for the year to get his money. There's speculation on that. Obviously, a lot of things popped up where when he was playing for Pittsburgh, he had a really devastating hit against Cincinnati Bengals, where that is what caused the issues that we're dealing with now.
Yeah, good point.
Everybody has their way of how they handle things. I'm not going to judge him for what he did. If that's the way he wanted to go out, I'm sure there's a lot of people that have wanted to quit their job by taking off their shirt and walking out of the job. I can't deny that. There's probably a few times I thought about it in the military as well, taking off my gear and just being like, I'm done. I think there could have been a better way to handle that issue there, really, but I think that's what lends credence to and credibility to the issue of maybe he is just being, and for lack of a better word, a brat, a spoiled brat, if you will. I don't want to, again, I am not one to judge anybody. I never will, but I felt like there could have been a better way to do it. And I think that's what led me to my first initial assessment of, and I said it plain as day is, can we now agree that we don't need an Antonio Brown on anybody's team? And I don't want to be that guy. I don't want to be that guy, but I feel like there could have been a better way to do it.
Well, yeah, you go back to his time in Oakland / Las Vegas and just how he terribly mishandled that situation. Had the issue with the football helmet that nobody in the NFL had an issue with, and he submitted waivers to get his old football helmet, but everybody had already moved on from the football helmet issue, and that led him to being out. And then he cryogenically froze his feet, and these are just weird things, odd things that, to me, the football player just completely mishandles the situation, and the representation that athlete has doesn't support him, doesn't either talk him down or move him on and get help. And then, Tom Brady, if there's anybody that can help you through a process, because as the great John Madden said, winning is the best deodorant. Well, Tom Brady's a winner. He can help you cover up a lot of things.
Yeah.
And, they got the Super Bowl last year, but all of a sudden in the middle of a game that's very important to you, you just get half naked and run off the field while the teams are in the huddle on the other end of the football field. There's something that, something unfortunately is missing. And just like the Buccaneers organization has been saying, I hope he does get the help that he needs, because he does need some kind of help, whether it's mental, whether it's, mentorship. The young man needs something. And it's even more tragic to, football fans like us who loved Antonio Brown. Fantastic athlete. Those are the kind of guys that you'd like to see exceed in the first half of his career anyway.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, what do you think? I thought a lot about this in the last 24 hours. Do you think this will lead to more in-depth mental health checks for these guys now? Do you think this is a sign for that? Do you think it's they kind of just treat it as a one-time issue? What is your and again, for me, it's just speculation. What do you think on it?
Yeah, because that's a fantastic question, because he's been cleared to play this whole time, and there's been no indication of any issues prior to this. And yeah, he did have the solid hit against Cincinnati a while ago, but wide receivers aren't usually known for their knees going out, losing their ankles, their legs, and their hands, which that's their money maker.
Right.
It's not usually the head that you're used to seeing, but if through some examination, and some medical procedures, it does come out, then yeah, absolutely. I do think that'll lead to more maybe stringent protocols for evaluating these. Also, some teams may just take it upon themselves that, at the first sign of trouble, we're going to start evaluating these guys just a little bit more.
Right.
Just like, I can't remember his name, the young receiver he was with the Cleveland Browns, and then he was out for a whole year due to drugs.
Gordon.
Yes, thank you. Josh Gordon. That's a similar thing. Fantastic talent, but, just wasn't all there, mentally, in terms of mental capacity to up your level of professionalism in the NFL.
Yeah, I mean, you're either going to be in two camps on this. You're either going to think he's, again, being a spoiled brat diva, right. Or you're really concerned, and I personally think that they need to up the protocols, at least with with the head injuries more. I know they're doing everything they can. I mean, I obviously I don't know everything in the ins and outs of the NFL and what they're doing for concussion and or brain injury. But I think there's a lot more that, maybe there's just something we're not seeing, or again, like you just said, it's hard to decipher because he has been cleared. And I mean, we know before they even let anybody on the field, they go through all these medical tests. I asked myself, and these are all these questions that, because I knew we were going to talk about this tonight. So these are some of the things I want to bring up. Is there some way that they could have missed it, or I'm sure they could, because again, at the end of the day, you really don't want to see anybody go. And you were absolutely right. We all loved Antonio Brown when he first got with I mean, you couldn't talk Pittsburgh Steelers without talking Antonio Brown.
Right.
And so it's a sad situation. And again, in turn, if he did it just to be a brat, maybe he still needs some help somewhere, and it's still in that, it still could fall in that mental health capacity. I mean, because we're seeing more and more now these days that this game does wear. I mean, we've always known that it had a wear and tear on you, but I think it's just these players are now becoming more vocal, or not being held back by certain people anymore to where they can speak their minds about it.
Yeah, absolutely. You bring up two great points. I think you're right. Everybody's in one of two camps. And without looking at it closely, I think most people are going to be in the, oh, he's just a millionaire brat that just wants all the attention. But the Antonio Brown situation, to me, is just so weird that you almost have to look. You can't discount any type of mental faculty issue just because of the crazy things that he's done. There are plenty of players that have done a lot for attention, but they haven't purposely missed games,
right.
Excuse me, to get that attention. He purposely missed games with the Raiders over a football helmet issue that nobody had a problem with. He tried to not play this weekend, even though he was this close to getting the bonuses. He didn't want to go in. And for ankle injury, speculation, it doesn't matter. But he just didn't want to play. They needed him. He's an athlete. And so the second point you bring up, talking about the mental health issue, I think that's becoming more and more of an issue just with athletes in general today. You look at Simone Biles having to take mental time off in the Olympics. You look at the number one ranked tennis player. She was number one at the time.
Naomi Osaka.
Yes, thank you, Osaka. I don't know why I can't remember these famous people's names. Carl Nassib had to take time off at the beginning of the year from the Raiders because he needed mental time. Excuse me, sorry. So, yeah, we're seeing the mental side of it a lot more than we're used to seeing it from athletes nowadays.
What is making it more prevalent? Is it just I mean, obviously these things have always been there. I mean, we just can't say from starting 2020 that these things just started. They've always been there. Is it, again, I have to ask myself, what is it that is making it more and I'm glad that it is. And people that are watching, I don't want you to think that I'm downplaying these mental health issues at all. I'm wondering what is making it where these guys are allowed to speak their minds again and make it more prevalent, and which I'm glad they're doing, because I mean, I feel that is a serious issue and it should be addressed. But were they just told not to, and was it just, strap up and go play and shut your mouth? Or was it, if you say anything, we'll dock you pay? What,
Mm-hmm. So I have to disclaim my thoughts on this with the important point that, just like you, if you feel you have a mental health issue or you need to take that mental break, then you absolutely do. That is your perspective. It's 100% supported. Or I'm not judging you either way for it. I'm simply making an observation. It's my speculation. And I think it's a societal shift. I think when Simone Biles sat down for I think a week and a half or a whole week in the Olympics, she was applauded for it. So the platform is there to support your mental stability. You know what I mean? The platform is there for people are being applauded for stepping out and saying, I have, mental reservations. I need to take my mental health more importantly. And so I'm going to step away. So nowadays they're being applauded more. Whereas traditionally it was just like you say, you know what? You're an athlete. You're trying to play at the highest peak of your level. You overcome the mental health issues, which means essentially you suck it up.
Yeah.
And we're seeing that shift. Right, wrong, or indifferent, that's a person's opinion. That's not for me to judge anything. I just think it's a societal shift that's making these issues, or that's making people's mental health more of a priority than the physical peak performance.
Yeah, I have a good buddy that's a psychologist for Brigham Young University for the football team, and I've talked to him a few times. And so it's great to, and again, I feel like I lashed out probably more than I should have, instead of taking the whole issue in, because I probably, the more and more I thought about it, I was in the camp of he's a diva and he's a brat, and not thinking clearly at the time that, because I think it was the way he did it, and maybe that is just a cry for help for him. And
exactly.
And I that's what I had to do. I even sat down and talked to my wife about it. I was like, man, I feel really bad for this guy now. Even I feel bad for myself for even saying it. So next question, we talked a lot about that. We watched, possibly for the last time, a quarterback suit up in Pittsburgh last night. Do you think he's done? Assuming they make the playoffs, they're not out of it just yet. There's some things that go their way. But do you think he's done? Do you think it's time for Big Ben to move on, or has he got another season in him?
No, I think he's done. He announced, or he said he was going to come back for one more year during the offseason this year. And then if you watched the game last night, you could just tell that, he was done. Like, when I saw Drew Brees' last regular season home game, you could see it, and you could also tell the way everybody else was reacting around him. After Najee Harris scored that touchdown to seal it with like 40 seconds left, everybody rallied. They didn't go rally around Najee Harris like they normally do. They all went around Ben and hugged him. And Coach Tomlin went up and gave him a big hug. And so, excuse me, you could just feel it. All of the thanks for your support, Ben. Hey, thanks, number 7. So yeah, I think he's done. And I think it's pretty clear, no matter what happens, whether they go to the Super Bowl and lose, and then he gets that taste of being so close again, I still think he's done.
Yeah, you're right. And the body language, to me, everything last night, body language wise, to just, again, like you said, that was a pretty cool moment.
Yeah.
There at the end for them to do that to Ben. And I mean, I've never been one of his biggest fans. I don't dislike him, but I've never been one of his biggest fans. But it's kudos to him. It shows that, I mean, again, never had a losing season, him or Tomlin. So that's a testimonial to his quarterback prowess as well as the coach. Definitely a Hall of Famer down the road. But again, on that note, congratulations to the Steelers for, again, not having a losing season. We talked quite a bit about that last week as well. So the question was this going to be the first one? And it's almost like death and taxes with Tomlin. You're not going to, winning season, you're guaranteed it, or a non-losing season, I should say.
Yeah, you're absolutely right.
Not much other than, I mean, what we saw for the most part was normal across the board for most of the games. One of the games that really intrigued me was that the Rams and which was one of the ones we talked about was being one to watch was the Rams and Ravens. Then the Ravens defense looked like that was early 2000s there for a while. The I'll think of his name now. I can't remember. Ray Lewis and them. That looked like them there for a little bit. They're just doing what they needed to do against the Rams. Now, granted, Stafford needs to. We'll talk about him more here in a minute, but he needs to find his identity for next week.
Yeah, you would think that with Lamar Jackson out and no offensive scheme for the Ravens, that the Rams would, and all the superstar talent that the Rams have on defense, you would think that the Rams would have gone in there and run them over. But it seems like more recently the Rams are winning in spite of Matt Stafford, not because of Matt Stafford. And that should be concerning, for the Rams in the postseason going up against, the NFC that they're going to be facing. And I think what everybody probably thought was going to be a pretty easy win and a good fair weather game, to help them prepare to go into Green Bay. It ended up being a slugfest, and they really needed a better running game than they got. Sonny Michel he's not going to do the job. Obviously Henderson is out, and that's a big loss, but at the same time, the Rams' identity has been Matt Stafford and passing the ball. Excuse me. And that hasn't really worked the past couple of weeks. So even though they've won 6
interceptions in 2 games.
Right.
Is it again? I got to ask: is it a? I don't want to call it a mental issue for him, but is it a block? Is it a I've never been here type thing? I think one time in his whole time in Detroit that they had a good season where they were in the playoffs, if I remember correctly. Is it that? Is it just a unknown territory for him? Is that what it is? Or is it just
Yeah, that's a great point. Matt Stafford's not used to having the pressure of he's used to the pressure of leading the offense. He clearly did that in Detroit, a couple of 5,000-yard seasons. But you're right. At the end of the season, his teams were mostly just playing for next year. Now, he's still trying to win the number 2 seed. He's trying to win the division. He's trying, this late in the game. And I think that does wear on you at some point, especially when everybody like us are talking about Matt Stafford. Come on, man, Matt Stafford, instead of, we're not talking about Coach McVay, maybe on a 3rd and 2, you run it instead of throwing it 15 yards. Maybe you focus a little more on your zone blocking scheme improving, setting up your run. Maybe they critique that instead of Matthew Stafford, but it's Matt Stafford all the time. At the same time, they have won 5 straight. So the whole team, the message in the locker room to help him alleviate some of that stress should be, Matt, we got you, man. They've won 5 straight. However, he just like you said, 5 picks in 2 games? They've got to figure out a way to take the pressure off him, because I do think that that's mostly what it is he's trying too hard to be the savior out there.
Yeah, I wholeheartedly agree. But interesting that he still, again, found that way to drive the ball down, get that win, 1-point win. Really kudos to him. I've always been a Stafford fan. I'm a Georgia fan, a Georgia Bulldog fan. I like the Bulldogs. So I've always been a Stafford fan, and to see him succeed finally makes me happy. But in turn, I ask myself again, is he going to do enough to win them a Super Bowl? And I have to say right now, the last couple of weeks looking at him, it's highly unlikely that he could right now take them to the Super Bowl. I could be wrong. I could be eating leather. I made some bad calls over this past weekend. No, I mean, another game intriguing. We talked about it. The Chiefs fans were not very happy with the refs for the first time. The Chiefs fans were not very happy, and I think Chiefs fans finally saw what we saw from certain refs. Now, I'm not saying that they were all bad calls and things like that, but I think I just said the Bengals are playing a little bit better. I mean, I know the Chiefs had went in and had won straight, but at some point those streaks got to end. The losing streak for the Cardinals ends. The winning streak for Miami ends. And that winning streak for the Chiefs ends with this game. And it was a good game to me. I thought it was a very well played game, at least in my opinion. I know there were some. And again, we could have a whole show dedicated to referees in the NFL. I even saw one in the Cowboys game. I'm not going to blame the refs on it, but there was a little crappy call with a fumble there at the end. I'm not going to name any names, but overall, I thought the Bengals played really well. They stuck with it the entire time.
Yeah, we've been talking about identity all year, right? Teams that know who they are and play to those strengths are always going to come out. I'm going to say always, but mostly going to come out on top. And wasn't this just a fun game to watch? This was the perfect game to watch at the perfect time in the season. If this game would have happened in week 6, week 7, we'd have been talking about the numbers, the third down conversions. But what a special game this was. What looked like it was going to be a blowout for KC, just moving up and down the field at will, looking like, we've seen them. And then the defense doing what they've been doing for the past 6 or 7 weeks. At first you're like, oh, wow. And then all of a sudden, a couple bad calls, a couple freak plays, one maybe.
Yeah.
And then, the Bengals just come roaring back, and then it seems to be back and forth. It was just those ping pong games you just love to watch between these teams. And how fitting that it was in the AFC. They've just been beating the snot out of each other. It's like one team gets ahead, and then a couple of teams, beat their tail and bring it back in. For this one, KC was starting to get ahead, and the Bengals know who they are. They are a passing football team, despite a mediocre offensive line, but they use their running backs brilliantly, both in the running game and in the passing game. The offensive coordinator deserves a medal for the job that Cincinnati has done this year with just what I think is a terrible offensive line. I can't believe Joe Burrow is throwing for the percentages and the numbers that he's throwing right now, given the pressure that he's under.
Oh, yeah.
It's just mind-boggling.
I would like and after hopefully I'll get a chance to do it. I'd like to go back and see what the exact number of times that he's got to be one of the most pressured quarterbacks in all of NFL this year, as far as rushes and pressure on the quarterback. So
yeah, Cincinnati ranks 31st in pass block rating.
They're okay.
31st. Yeah.
I was trying to go see what the numbers were, but
and the hit rate on Burrow is the 3rd worst in the league. He's been hit more than 28 other quarterbacks.
Yeah.
And
I knew it was high. I just wanted to see what the exact. I'm glad you had those numbers. But the thing with Cincinnati is they made their adjustments and they continued.
That's right.
How often do you see that really in a game where they continuously make adjustment after adjustment after oh shit, that's not working. We're gonna do and that's what I saw from the Cincinnati offensive mind to adjust and go out and win that game. At least that's what I saw.
Yeah. Well, yeah, that's the beautiful thing about football. It's a chess match within multiple chess matches. And teams come out with a game plan at the beginning, and as they see it stop working, some of them will make adjustments quarter per quarter. Sean Payton, Bill Belichick, Matt LaFleur, these coaches are excellent at making in-game adjustments right away. Some teams wait till halftime, then adjust, and then it's a completely different story. Like I was watching the Saints game this weekend, and So the Panthers dominated the first half.
Yes.
They came out, they made their adjustments. Saints made their adjustments. And I'll never forget what Matt Millen said. He was a broadcaster. He said the Panthers came out and made adjustments, and it didn't work. So they made reverse adjustments. They made themselves worse in their adjustments. But the Bengals, they make adjustments. What we're seeing and what we saw in this game, they were making in-game adjustments in real time.
Right.
When they started noticing Joe Burrow get hit on the weak side, what they do, you move the running back over, or you bring another tight end on the other side, or you put a tackle on the end lined up as a tight end and therefore eligible. They have to declare themselves eligible. Simple in-game adjustments that make you a better football team, gives your quarterback more confidence. Not all coaches do that, and those are the teams that don't do very well.
Yeah, it's just that was one, like you said, one of the funnest games.
Oh yeah.
I know it wasn't for the Chief fans. I got a lot of Chief fan buddies, and my entire feed on Sunday was some very colorful comments throughout that entire game. I still think the Chiefs probably going to be one of the best teams going into the playoffs.
Yeah, I think this was just a speed bump game.
Yeah, this was definitely a speed bump. But I like this Bengals team. And maybe next year we'll have awards for these guys. But if we had awards this year, I would definitely give an award to Joe Burrow for taking the crap that he has taken this year and still put up miraculous numbers, almost MVP numbers at this time.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, unless something weird happens, if you're not listening, he should at least be kind of in the jingle of an MVP talk. Like, here he is dangling the keys over here with you guys in the MVP talk. So kudos to, again, Joe Burrow for an excellent game and sticking it out. He's definitely going to be a good quarterback on down the road if he continues to take these. The problem is, and I'm going to say, he has the potential to be a Baker, where if he gets hit too much, he's going to end up being hurt a lot.
Yeah, so I'm taking a little bit of the opposite perspective on him just by looking at the numbers we've seen. He's put up really good numbers, and the pressure he's getting is enormous. And most quarterbacks, they don't like that pressure at all. Tom Brady did terrible against the Saints with pressure. Aaron Rodgers, when pressure is right up the middle, he's a mediocre quarterback. He doesn't get time to adjust. Joe Burrow, that hasn't happened to him now yet. You're right. We may, it'll take a couple of years of getting beat up and see how that looks. It may turn out to be different, but if with his confidence level the way it is right now, despite what he's going through, despite the pressure that he's under, the vision you obviously know is there, right? I mean, it's clearly there. He's got the vision. He's got the ability to quickly read. But now look what happens when he gets an offensive line. If they go after an offensive line in the draft and free agency next year, and they retain Joe Mixon, that team could.
That's a dangerous team.
Yeah, exactly.
Very dangerous team.
Yep. His confidence won't be affected at all. Unfortunately, Baker Mayfield, I think his confidence has been affected by his coaching staff because they keep throwing him to the wolves for some unknown reason.
Yeah,
I don't know why they haven't figured it out. And he's just not been able to step up for whatever reason. He's got one of the best offensive lines in the NFL, albeit against, with the run. So that's what you do is you run. And they just haven't used him. And unfortunately he hasn't, he just hasn't performed.
Yeah, it's unfortunate, and you're right. Joe Burrow seems like he likes to take on the pressure as well. I mean, that's a good thing and a bad thing. I don't want him to get too beat up that he can't throw the ball because he's fun to watch. He really is fun. I mean, I've watched quite a few games from him this season, just because just to see what he could do. So I'm really impressed with him. And you are right. They're going to be, if they build that team like they could, we could be seeing early 80s Cincinnati back.
That's right.
And some Boomer Esiason Cincinnati's back real quick.
Yeah.
So good games all around. I think for the most part we knew what we were going to see over the weekend. We knew the teams were going to win. These teams were going to win. I was surprised by the Jets and the Bucks for a while. I don't know what was absolutely going on there. But here it is, Brady. I mean, what? 25 seconds left on the clock, and Brady wins the damn game. So,
yeah, with what was that wide receiver's name again? Yeah, nobody knows. Tom Brady seems to do that, but. If you look at the injury list that they have, both on the defense and the offense, it's amazing to me that I don't want to say it's amazing, but what's really surprising is how the Jets perform so well. Now, granted, the Buccaneers didn't have Shaq Barrett or the other linebacker, and the secondary we've known all year has been pummeled. But really on the offensive side of the ball, no Leonard Fournette. No Godwin. Jones got injured. Jones Jr. got injured in the middle of the game. Antonio Brown, created drama on the sideline. And the focus just didn't seem to be there. And Tom Brady, he likes confidence. He likes trust in his players. And if he doesn't trust you, he's just not going to throw it to you. He's just literally not even going to look in your direction. And I think on the receiver end, I think he has some wide receivers that need to earn a little bit more of that trust, other than Mike Evans, who's obviously a staple, and Gronk, who, I think him and Brady have the same brain.
Yeah.
The Buccaneers, I think, are going to struggle in the playoffs this year just because their injuries are, it's key players and it's key injuries too. It's not just, an elbow sprain. It's key injuries.
Yeah, it's key injuries, true. Yeah, you're right. I will say this about Gronk. I like the kid a lot. Stick to football.
Me too.
Stay away from acting. Do not do any more.
He's a footballer. Yeah.
Do not do any more commercials, Gronk.
Fire him.
Do not. I love you, kid, but man, your acting ability is about as good as mine, buddy, and I promise you that's not very good. I think most of our playoffs are set. We have two teams that have legit shots to still make it, and that's the Saints in the NFC, and that's the Raiders in the AFC. Yep. What is it going to take to get the Saints into the playoffs this weekend?
Yeah, it's very simple for New Orleans. At the basic level, they've got to beat Atlanta, and then San Francisco has to lose to the Rams. That's probably going to happen. I think the Rams take care of San Francisco. There's talk about Jimmy Garoppolo coming in, although Trey Lance didn't look too terrible in that game. I thought he actually looked pretty decent. But I don't think the Rams lose to San Francisco. So if you go to the Saints-Falcons game, these two hate each other. It's a rivalry, and it doesn't matter, what the rosters are on either team. It's never a blowout. And while the Saints have just had a completely depleted roster all year long in terms of injuries, COVID, you name it, suspensions. We've had 3 or 4 different players suspended throughout the year. This game is definitely an X's and O's game. It's execution, it's adjustment, it's focus, and the Saints need to have an improved offensive line, and they need to be able to run the football because Matty Ice, Matt Ryan, he just knows how to beat the Saints. And so the Saints don't have a passing attack. Decent running game, very good running backs.
Yep.
But the offensive line is, it's really a practice squad offensive line for most of the year. And if you watch them, in any game you watch the Saints past 7-8 weeks, there's been literally no running game. Taysom Hill has been the running back. And that's just not good. So this definitely is an execution adjustment football game, and this is one of those hard-nosed games where the Saints running game has to be key, because anybody watched the Saints defense lately knows that this defense is just punching people in the mouth. Yep. It's like they single-handedly went to the locker room, into their defensive offices, and were like, this offense is not going to get us to the promised land. So if we want to go, we got to take us there, and that's exactly what's happening.
I feel like right now they're in. I feel like they're going to beat the Falcons. I feel like the Niners are definitely going to lose. Nothing against nothing against the Niners again. Jimmy G. But no, I can't. I just think this matchup this weekend works in their favor. I mean, if anybody ever needed a way to have a way into the playoffs, this matchup for both of these teams right here works towards the Saints' favor. For the Raiders, on the other hand, beat the Chargers and you're in, pretty much, right?
Yep.
Playing in Las Vegas, the Chargers, look pretty good. I mean, they played a pretty beat up Denver team, in my opinion. I don't think Denver's 100% as well, but Chargers went out and did what they needed to do this weekend, and beat the Broncos.
Right.
Raiders had a really good game. I mean, I thought they were going to lose it, but man, the Raiders looked really good over the weekend.
Yeah.
And beat the Colts, beat the team I'm high on, and man, it's the Raiders are playing for a lot more now than just a fired coach. They got the big man watching over them now. And watching over their shoulders. So maybe, just maybe, get a little bit of Madden luck.
Yeah.
What do you think? Do you think we'll talk more about the matchup in a little bit, but they're the only ones that really have a legit shot, I think, in the AFC. I know that Pittsburgh's still alive. Yeah, Baltimore mathematically, but I mean literally a comet has to hit the earth for Baltimore to get in now. Yeah. I just think the Raiders are really the only ones that are percentage-wise have a legit shot at making it in.
Yeah, I completely agree. The Raiders, they don't have anything to lose, right? I mean, everybody's been talking so high about the Chargers all year, Oh, Justin Herbert, and trust me, I'm a fan, huge fan. I love Justin Herbert. We've talked highly about him, and we like what the coaching staff is doing there. So the Chargers are very much moving up, but there's been a lot of positive talk about the LA Chargers all year. There hasn't been really any talk about the Las Vegas Raiders positively, other than spunky, prideful. Those to me are always terms associated with the Raiders. That commitment to excellence. That's kind of always been their mantra, whether you like the Raiders or not. They've always been kind of prideful, boastful, angry, but nobody's talked positively about them. So they really have absolutely nothing to lose other than to just go out and, play a game of football that they love. And so I think that they have the mental edge for sure. Chargers have too much pressure on them. Raiders have absolutely no pressure. They're playing with a rented head coach, quarterback that nobody talks about in the MVP talks, even though he was leading the league in passing for the first 6 or 7 weeks of the season. So, I just think the upside is better for the Raiders than the Chargers. Now, at this point, you just got to go out and perform and leave it all out there.
Are the Eagles a silent killer in this playoff?
Yeah.
Did they have that little? For about 2 weeks now, I felt like these Eagles might just find a way to sneak their way into an NFC Championship game.
Yeah, right. Yeah, they're that NFC team that really nobody's talking about. You're absolutely right. And but they're doing it again. They know who they are. They're a young team. They run the football extremely well. They don't pretend to be, pass happy,
Right.
but they do pass when they need to. And Jalen Hurts has been effective when he needs to be effective in throwing the ball. But their defense has performed very well. So yeah, they're that. I compare all those kind of teams now to the Giants. Remember that year that they went in 9-7 record, ended up winning the Super Bowl against the Patriots. So that's who I compare them to. And the Eagles are definitely the team that nobody's talking about right now in the AFC or the NFC.
They're 1 win away from a 10-win season, which is not bad at all. So
that's right.
I mean, if they handle the Cowboys this weekend, they're 10-7, and yeah, I'm silently, being a Cowboys fan, there's 3 teams you hate the most, and that's the Eagles, the Washington football team, and the New York Giants football team.
Yeah.
But I have silently been dreading this matchup. If this would have been earlier in the season, or we played them twice already early in the season, I wouldn't be worried about this matchup then as I am now.
Yeah.
Because, man, oh man, it's the Cowboys have it wrapped up. There's no doubt that they're at least the 4 seed. They're already wrapped up as a division winner. But it could be scary for the Cowboys to lose 2 in a row going into the playoffs, and that would be a bad sign. So, again, I'm still riding high on these Colts being the silent killers, if you will. And maybe even the Bengals are a division leader, but they're again, I don't want to say they're silent, but they prove they're not going to lay down.
Yeah.
In these playoffs, they proved or at least they're not going to go laying down and hey, we're already in the playoffs. No, they want to play for something here. So the Bengals and the Patriots, or excuse me, the Bengals and the Colts are kind of those 2 teams that I'm riding with the Bills. Bills, please make it. I got some cashola on you, Bills, so please make it. But no, I like the way the Bengals and the Colts are playing going in. Now the Colts had again, I'm going to give it to the Raiders, like I said, because I still think Madden was watching over in this game. But Madden was up there with the controller, and he was hitting A and B and getting those speed bursts. But yeah, I mean, but if the Raiders do get in, they're kind of a sneaky little booger too, if you know what I'm talking about. They could. I'm not saying they get to the Super Bowl. I'm saying they could sneak up into an AFC division or an AFC title game as well.
Yeah. Well, they could ruin. They're the type of team that can ruin the hopes and dreams of the Cincinnati Bengals, or they could ruin the hopes and dreams of the Tennessee Titans if the Titans don't end up with the number 1 seed.
Yeah.
The thing about the Bengals is they just made loud noise this weekend, and they could still take the number 1 seed in the AFC.
Yeah.
So there's a chance that the AFC contender goes through Cincinnati, which I don't think anybody saw coming at the beginning of the season, much less midway through the season. So the Colts, yeah, I think they're quiet, but that they played Tennessee very well both games, and they've played very well against everybody else recently. But I think this is the wrong time to have a letdown game. I agree. I think they had some Madden inspiration, the Raiders did, but I think Carson Wentz played. He did not go into COVID protocol, and he ended up playing.
Yep.
So I think they had the pieces there to do it, and they didn't do it. I'm a little disappointed with Indianapolis this weekend, to be honest with you.
Yeah. So I gotta say this: for the Titans to get the number 1, or at least right now the number 1 seed without Derrick Henry, and we talked about this last week as well. For them to be the number 1 seed without Derrick Henry is probably one of the most amazing things, because I would have never, not at the beginning of the year, not in the middle of the year when Henry went out, would I have thought that the Titans would be at number one without him. No way. And Tannehill's quiet. And again, I'm not saying he's kind of over there with Joe Burrow where they're both dinging those keys saying, hey, we're here. You guys all thought, Derrick Henry, here I am. I'm winning games. What do you think about that, honestly, now? Now that we're right there on the cusp, they've got to – they're playing the Texans. Texans did kind of slap them earlier in the year.
Yeah. I get a little frustrated when I hear people pick – when I hear the experts pick Matt LaFleur as head coach of the year over Mike Vrabel. Granted, I don't want to take anything away from LaFleur. He's an excellent coach. He's a brilliant mastermind. Right. We've already seen that fantastic record first 3 years of the season. But look who he plays with. Look at the talent that he has going for him. Mike Vrabel loses arguably one of the best running backs in the history of the game.
Yep.
We might find out. And yet some kid runs for 200 yards this weekend. The Tennessee offense runs for almost 200 yards this weekend. So clearly Mike Vrabel's doing things well. The other thing is they go you go back to when Derrick Henry got hurt, and probably nobody's been more critical of the Titans than me, calling them out and not consistently picking them in the top 5 in my top 10 rankings. But I look, and, they just have found ways to win. The offense played poorly, but the defense stepped up. Special teams has performed, when it really needed to. They haven't really had a lot of blunders. Granted, you're right. The Texans was just a terrible game, and they probably learned a lot from that game. It's just they're just not quitting. They're not failing a lot, and maybe they're failing it. The times are not critical, so timing helps. Sometimes luck helps, but just everything seems to be going well for this team. And I don't ever hear about Tannehill. Yeah. Freeman is the running back this weekend that they had. It's just amazing what they're doing. And I think, hands down, Mike Vrabel is the head coach of the year for the things that he's done for that team this year.
Well, keep a hold of that because we're doing our regular season awards next week. So make sure you be getting them ready. Obviously, our player of the year, the rookie of the year, things like that. So be ready with those. Yeah. Again, and I can't stress this enough. And I think the MVP again has become kind of like the Heisman, and it's who is the best team and who's the best player on that team.
Yeah.
And it should be who's that it should be the most valuable player on that team and that did what he had to do to win without the superstars around him. And to me, man, if at least you don't have Tannehill even in the breath of going, well, we had a good MVP season. There's Brady and there's COVID foot and there's I kid. I love you, Rodgers. COVID toe, yeah. But if you don't at least mention Tannehill's name with those guys, I feel like it's an injustice this year. I really feel like it's just criminal not to mention his name because he, again, like we said, man, we wouldn't have picked them to be a number 1 seed without Derrick Henry. I don't think we would have in hindsight.
I had when that happened, and I will probably go back and review it on this show, but I had Indianapolis potentially still winning the division, even though the Titans de facto had 3 games up on them because they had beat the Colts twice before Derrick Henry went out. So I was, and you're absolutely right. If just on those tangibles alone, Tannehill should be in the conversation because he's kept the glue on the offense going. A.J. Brown has missed some time. Julio Jones has missed some time. Obviously, Derrick Henry has missed a ton of time. So who are the superstars on that offense other than Tannehill? You're absolutely right. That's a great point. And I would not have factored it.
I'm just ready to see, Gosh, and here we are finally for the first year ever. We're 17 games. We're week 18 where week 18 is an actual regular season game, and we got some good ones coming up.
Yeah.
After some number crunchings, you're still ahead of the fans by 4 games. It is 74-46 for you, 70-50 for the fans. This is the week you'll have a regular season, and then we'll go into the playoffs, and we'll do some little finagling around there. We'll figure out a nice. If you win, we'll figure out a nice prize for you and everything for the win of the season. Maybe you'll get a chalky. That's what we got. We'll get a chalky. We'll get an award called the chalky, and that's what you get, or something like that. We'll come up with something really cool. There's still some potential playoff implications, like we just talked about. Some teams, obviously not as many as there was last week, but there's still some teams that going to go into this last week hoping to get in, and that, like we said, like the Saints, the Raiders. Outside chance even for the Pittsburgh Steelers, and I do believe even the Baltimore Ravens. But again, like I said, for the Ravens to get in, literally everybody has to lose, and that's not going to happen. So, no, I can't say it won't happen. Again, like I said, a comet. I mean, hell, stranger things have happened, and a comet could hit the Earth. We don't know. If you haven't got, guys, the comet, I watched Don't Look Up this week, so I'm trying to not giving it any props. I'm not giving that movie any props whatsoever, but I digress. But next week I want to talk about, because we're wrapping some things up, I do want to talk about that question that I posed on Facebook, and you were kind enough to answer about some other football.
Yes.
So I want you to think more on that, because I really want to talk more about that next week as we get into this, just as a little bit of stuff to talk about. So
cool.
That's what I want to talk about. So we got the first game up. I think this is, this still has implications for a number 1 seed on it. Chiefs versus Broncos.
Yeah, the Broncos are out. Was talking about Vic Fangio potentially being out. I don't know what the Broncos have left to play for other than pride, but Kansas City, they have to wipe the stink off of this past weekend. So even though Denver's got a solid defense, their offense I don't think has enough to keep up with the Chiefs' offense that's performing pretty much at peak levels for the season right now.
Right.
Even, they still put up a ton of points this weekend, even though they lost. So I think Kansas City wins.
Kansas City, along with the fans, we are taking as well. I am taking the Chiefs as well. Like I said, they just look, man, the Broncos just look beat up, I think, and it's just been a long, long season for them, which was starting out as a promising season, just kind of deflated. And I think you're right. They're just playing for pride. So I'm going with the Chiefs as well. Again, just one we just talked about, the Silent Killers, Cowboys. These are both Saturday night games, by the way, ladies and gentlemen. If you weren't aware, these are 2 Saturday night games. The Cowboys and Eagles got moved to prime time on Saturday night. Again, the Eagles have a chance for a 10-win season, and the Cowboys need to find something before going into the playoffs.
Yeah, I feel bad for you Cowboy fans, because it seems like I've just been terrible on picks with the Cowboys. I just feel like I haven't won a lot, or when I pick them to win, they lose. Yeah. I don't know. So Cowboy fans, I apologize, because I think the Cowboys are going to win this game. I don't know what happened to the Cowboys offense this past weekend. It was surprising, but the Cowboys defense still, just solid defense. And
I think Cowboys went in thinking they were going to just destroy this team, and they just played flat. I mean, that's my honest. Yeah. Watching what I watched, because the Cardinals were down a lot of people on defense. DeAndre Hopkins, on offense, DeAndre Hopkins, everything. They're down. And so I don't know. I think they just went in with cockiness, and Cowboys don't lose at home often.
No.
And they didn't lose at home often this year, but man, that was a flat performance. But I'm going with the Cowboys. I think they've owned the East this year.
Yeah.
And I mean, other than this being the only, I mean, even if they get one loss, they still owned it. But I think the Cowboys just own up to it, and they're not going to lose this on there. So
Yeah, I'm taking the Cowboys too.
okay. Bengals Browns. I think that, Bengals playing for the Bengals are the Browns of 2020 or 2021, whatever it was, of last year, we'll say.
Yeah,
the Browns won that division. Now the Bengals are going to win this division.
Yeah, so Baker Mayfield's sidelined now. He's done for the year, so he will not be playing. And it doesn't matter anyway because they're not using the two running backs that they have with them. So, everybody, the Bengals defense is just going to tee off. And, even though that front four for Cleveland is really strong, Joe Burrow's been getting hit by everybody this year. That's not going to faze him. Yeah. I think the Bengals run away with this game.
Yeah, the fans are going with the Bengals as well. I am going with the Bengals. I'm not. Do they break up the Browns? I mean, is this the end of the Browns?
No. But I do think it's the beginning of the end for Baker Mayfield in Cleveland, unless they do some front office changes. At least some coordinator changes on the offense and just change that mindset. I said at the beginning of the year, and I'm still sticking to it. The Browns should have won this division this year. They had everything that they needed at the beginning of the year. They could, if they would have done what they were supposed to do, Odell Beckham would still be in Cleveland, because they would be winning and they would be performing well. They would be running the ball, which then would set up the pass. Baker Mayfield is fantastic at play action, but he's not good when he has to lead off with passing. And Coach Stefanski, I really like him, but I just think they absolutely blew it this year. So
I agree.
If they don't make coordinator changes or philosophy changes and understand who they are on the offensive side of the ball, then it's the beginning of the end for Baker Mayfield. And quite frankly, if I was Baker, I would want to leave.
I honestly think we see Baker either in a Seahawk uniform next year or possibly Seahawk or Washington, whatever they name themselves on 2/2/22.
Well, no, the Admirals maybe. I'm hearing that. But
yeah.
You know what? I really hope you're right that he ends up in Seattle, because then that means Russell Wilson is not there. And there's one team primarily they're talking about him going to.
Yeah. I've been thinking about this the last couple of days, and I really think Russell Wilson is in New Orleans next year. And I do think Russell Wilson's in New Orleans. I think Baker Mayfield is in Seattle or with the Washington Admirals, whatever they're going to call their names. All right, Vikings and Bears.
Yeah. This is a swan song game for both head coaches. Kirk Cousins, though, he's another guy that probably should have been, listed in the MVP talk. Actually, he really, in fairness, he was towards the end of the season.
Yeah.
But I think, you know what? I'm going to have to go with my gut. I think the Vikings win.
I'm with you. I'm with the Vikings as well. We're going to see two new – I honestly think we're seeing two new coaches in Chicago and Minnesota next year. The writing's pretty much on the wall for Minnesota. And we've known for a while now that Nagy was probably finishing the season and he was done. I'm expecting Sunday afternoon, as soon as the Bears-Vikings game's over, that we hear something.
Yeah, there's already been reports that Matt Nagy is not finishing his career in Chicago. So, but the good thing, the one thing I like about the Bears organization, they've never fired their head coach in mid-season.
Yeah.
Which I just think that's right.
That's the right thing to do. I agree.
Yeah. Just ride the season out.
All right, still another game with number 1 seed on the line, the Titans and the Texans. We talked about a little bit earlier about the Texans sneaking up on them earlier. Is it a repeat, or do we see the Titans finish it out?
Yeah, I think we see the Titans finishing out. They're not going to fall for that again.
Titans I agree with you. The Titans are just probably I think the Texans need to just focus on 2022, next season and just – but I'm with you. And the fans are with us as well. I forgot to tell you the fans are with the Bears for that game.
Okay.
So, Bears in Chicago, last game of the season. I don't know, but you're right. I think the Titans are just – they still want that. They want that number one seed. They want to hold off and get as many people as healthy as they can with that bye week, I think. So they're playing with a lot of.
Yeah. And, the absolute brilliant move brought in Derrick Henry to practice. So that turns the clock on effectively to play him. So they need this game one win.
Yep.
So they need this number one seed. So that's an extra week of free time that doesn't count against them. That doesn't count against Derrick Henry on the clock. So he could potentially be available for at least the AFC Championship game, which would be huge.
I agree. Agreed. All right. And probably the one I'm most excited for this weekend, Saints and Falcons, because I really want to see. I want the Niners out. I want the Saints in. I mean, it's just the way it is. But this Niners thing goes back to the '80s when they, Dwight Clark catches that crap and catch with Joe Montana and puts my Cowboys out. So there's a little bit of history there. So it's not just Jimmy G, folks.
Yeah. So I know you got a lot of 49er fans out there. And so let me count the ways at how much Saints dislike the 49ers just because of the way they pummeled us when we were all in the same division together. And it seemed like every time, we were going for the divisional win, they would just beat our tails. And so we could never get a leg up on them. It didn't matter what it was. And so this is the one chance we have to finally pay back the 49ers. I don't think we've ever paid back the 49ers, since 1967 when we came in the league. We've just never ruined their day. So this is the day that the Lord has made. Let the Saints finally pay back the Niners. And I think the Saints win this game.
I do. I agree. I'm with you. Fans took the Falcons.
Please be wrong.
Yeah. Well, I did ask a Falcons fan. I had to. So that's just the way it got drawn. The last week of the season that I drew a Falcons fan to pick for the final week. So
they will never take the Saints.
Yeah, they will never pick the Saints. You are correct. All right, Patriots, Dolphins. The Dolphins finally drop out. I think. I mean, they're still mathematically in.
No, they're eliminated.
No, they are eliminated. You are correct. They are eliminated. So, Patriots all the way on me on this one.
Yeah, I'm taking the Patriots too. I mean, they hung half 100 this weekend. Granted, it was against Jacksonville, but I mean, I'm just going to be honest. They look like the Brady-led Patriots this game. This late in the season, they looked sharp, and they did exactly what you're supposed to do against a terrible football team, and that's just beat the snot out of them. The Dolphins, on the other hand, they rode a wave of confidence, a wave of momentum, and Tua, probably one of the most prolific, accurate seasons we'll see in NFL history. And so kudos to him for leading that offense. And, I just like the Dolphins. I love Coach Flores. I think he's got that Mike Tomlin ability to never give up, to always make yourself in it no matter what. And you know what? They ran into a wall. They ran into the number one team in the AFC who just refuses to lose any given Sunday.
Yeah.
And it happens. So I think the Patriots win this one.
All right. And we got the Jets at the Bills.
before this weekend, I would have easily picked the Bills, but you look what the Jets made themselves competitive against the Buccaneers, and then the Bills. Josh Allen throws 3 interceptions on 3 consecutive drives, and you look at the game, and he was a better runner than he was a passer, and you're like, what? And so, I mean, yes, I'm taking the Bills, but I hope for the Bills' sake, and again, I've been saying this all along, I hope for the Bills' sake they finally figured out that Josh Allen doesn't need to carry the load every single week.
No.
Devin Singletary is a fantastic. I've always liked Devin Singletary.
He's a good runner. He's a hard runner.
Yes, exactly. He has good vision, excellent balance, low center of gravity, very strong. He gets things done. He ran for over 100 yards, had 2 touchdowns, and they won the game despite Josh Allen. So
I think it was the weekend with 3 interceptions per quarterback. I really do.
Yeah.
All right. We talked about this one earlier. I think we both know where we're going with this one. 49ers Rams.
Yep. I'm going with the Rams, and whether it's Jimmy G or Trey Lance, I still think the Rams win this one.
Yeah. Fans went with the Niners on this one. Or the fan went with the Niners on this. I just, again, probably hating St. Louis and from being a Falcons fan. So.
Right.
I don't know. I'm just picking on him. I kid him. Yeah, I'm going with the Rams. I just think it works in the Saints' favor this week, and like we just talked about, I really do. And I think they're just going to handle business. I mean, I still think Stafford probably has a pick or two. He's got it, but he's got to figure himself out before the playoffs, and hopefully he does it this game. We'll see. But yeah, the Rams. I think Rams winning big and going out in a big way. So,
Yes,
last game of the week. There is no Monday Night Football, so our last game of the regular season is on a Sunday night. It is the Chargers at the Raiders. This is the one I've been back and forth on for a couple of hours today, thinking about what I'm picking. So,
yeah, this is, aside from the Saints game, this is the game I'm most excited about, and I'm really glad they put this on Sunday night. Obviously, the reason why they did is because this game has the most playoff implications of any matchup. If between the two teams, this one game, not between the two teams, but because these two teams are playing each other, this one game has 8 different playoff scenarios that are tied to it in the AFC. 8 different playoff scenarios. It's by far the most in the league. So, and it's at the last game, so every fan out there has to wait until midnight on the East Coast, 11 o'clock our time at night to find out where your team ends up in the AFC. So, it's a phenomenal matchup. It's a scrappy, no quit Raider team with nothing to lose, like we said earlier, against a pretty finesse team. That pretty good football team, still got some things to work out, but by all intents and purposes should be the one that wins it. But because just like you said, you've been going back and forth on it. So, who do you take? I think the Chargers win this one. I think I'm going to take the Chargers just because overall, I think they're a better football team.
Yeah,
I won't be surprised about the Raiders.
I'm taking the Chargers, and I'm probably going to end up. Yeah, I'm probably going to end up being upset with this pick, but I'm taking the Chargers as well. I think they are the best. I do. I agree with you. I think they are the better football team. But we've all seen David Carr with some luck on his side, and I don't know if he sold his soul to the devil sometimes or what. And I kid, but you know where I'm coming from with that. There's been some amazing. This kid has had some luck, so I give it to. But I just think the Chargers are the better team. I think Herbert's ready to go, and he's ready to lead the Chargers into that playoff. So
Yeah.
I'm going with the Chargers as well. All right, and that is our last regular season picks of the year.
Who'd the fans take?
The fans picked the Raiders.
So I think that's 5 games that I'm up by 4, and that's 5 games. Okay, that's goodness.
Yeah.
That's goodness.
Yeah, there's a good chance. So
right.
I think it's gonna be close there at the end. But I'm looking forward to this. I'm looking forward to this final weekend. Man, this has been fun. But ladies and gentlemen, we still have so much more football coming ahead. So, like I said, next week, make sure you're watching. We'll have our awards for the, all the regular season awards, and we'll have some postseason awards. But what are you looking most forward to? Obviously, we know the Saints, what we're looking for there. But what are we looking for overall this weekend?
Yeah, so there's only one team that can rest any starters, and that's the Green Bay Packers. No other team is solidified where their spot is,
right.
Or at least can rest. Every team has implications to move up or move down. So it'll be interesting to see, do the Packers rest Rodgers and give Jordan Love the keys to the machine and see what their future looks like. So then if that's the case, have we seen Aaron Rodgers start his last game at Lambeau Field already during the regular season? It's I think he'll be back next year. But, if Jordan Love goes out and does a fantastic job, Aaron Rodgers may think twice. The other thing, I am taking the Titans, but, can the Texans play that, can they play that spoiler? Listen, this Mills kid, he's pretty good. Mm-hmm. And he's shown flashes of greatness. He's shown some maturity. I don't want to say greatness. It's probably dramatic. So, can the Texans play the role of the spoiler? They've already beaten the Chargers, knocked them off their pedestal. Like we said, they beat the Titans back in week 11. So, can they do it again? Answer, yes, they can. But really, are they? What type of adjustments is Tampa going to make? They're going to need to use this game without the wide receiver talent.
Yeah.
Fortunately for them, they've got O.J. Howard, Cameron Brate, and then, of course, Gronk at the tight end position. Tom Brady does like to use his tight ends. So, we'll look to see if they change what their offensive philosophy looks like. And I think they'll use this last game, even though, they do need the win, but I think they'll use this last game to test it. And then also, will Seattle spoil Arizona's? Arizona's just a terrible football team at home.
Yeah.
And Seattle's going into Arizona. These two teams don't like each other. Arizona's playing at home. Russell Wilson has played really well the last couple weeks. So, why is that? Is he auditioning for, a new role somewhere else? Or is he trying to stay in Seattle, say, hey, see what you're missing? So, there's a lot of non-playoff things that are happening this weekend. And that's what I'm looking forward to.
Yeah.
Other than, you're right, the Saints, 49ers.
Yeah, my big focus, like you said, this weekend was the 2 playoff spots still available, or those 2 that still have a chance to bump into the playoffs, the Raiders and the Saints. Definitely watching that one. Watching that number 1 seed in the AFC. Curious who takes it, Chiefs or Titans? That's the big question right there. So those are 2 of the things I'm looking for. And then I'm just looking to see, for me personally, how the Titans, again, like you said, how the Titans really handle the Texans after that. I know I'm looking for number 1, but I'm looking to see, did they make those adjustments that they lost with the Texans, or do the Texans just have a edge over the Titans? That's the big thing that we're going to be looking for. So,
yes, sir.
Yeah, that's what I'm looking for. Excited for next week where we have our awards, guys. Make sure you get them all nice and ready. And that'll be our regular season, and we'll have some ready for you for the postseason. But I'm really excited to see how close we are on our awards, on who we think is the players of the year as far as rookie, regular season, MVPs, and things like that. So I'm excited for that. So without further ado, Happy New Year to all of our Chalk Talk fans that came out and watched. We will see you next weekend, or excuse me, next week at Tuesday. So thanks for coming on, brother. Again, Happy New Year to you and your family.
God bless. Happy New Year to you too.
God bless, and we'll see you next Tuesday. Good night, guys.
All right. Good night, all.